No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken Live episode number 155. Can you believe Angela Rayner? Angela Rayner is now going to be responsible for dictating the Islamophobia law that is coming. This is totally dystopian stuff, folks. Christopher Hitchens warned against it all of those years ago. Effectively, very, very soon, we are going to be unable legally to say, maybe we shouldn't like a religion that wants to throw me off the top of a building, that wants to cover up women. Much more on that later in the show. But first, it's happening, folks. Just as I predicted, the country's biggest poll now shows Nigel Farage becoming Prime Minister at the next election as Reform UK storms ahead of Labour and the Conservatives. But, and don't get angry with me for this but, because I've got to report what's really going on. A split in the surging party has emerged over Tommy Robinson, with star MPs Rupert Lowe and Lee Anderson both backing Elon Musk's position overnight.
It's a little bit, it's like saying to, I'm not going to go on a date with you, I'm not going to go on a date. Well, I haven't even asked to go on a date with you, thanks.
Well, it's a case of render unto Tommy Robinson what is Tommy Robinson's and render unto reform what is reform's. I think that's how it should be.
Yeah, but I just think it's very, very odd that you're all kind of going around going, Tommy Robinson's not welcome. And I don't know. I don't know Tommy Robinson. Maybe
Michelle,
he has
I've never
to be
said
part
that.
of
I've never said
reform.
that.
I find it very odd.
I've never said that, Michelle. I've never said that. But who has? His leader, Nigel Farage. So in my digest, I'll outline the two camps and also expose the MSM in this ongoing political row. Then my superstar panel weigh-in, and they're back, folks. Two of your faves and my faves too, June Slater and Leilani Dowding. Also coming up on the show today, Katie Hopkins slams Slippery Starmer over his lockdown lies as more questions emerge over what was really going on with the Prime Minister, or the then leader of the opposition, and his voice coach. And you know I'm passionate about this one. A new bombshell in the unfair conviction of Lucy Letby. Mark my words, folks, this will end up going down as one of the biggest miscarriages of justice in British history. I've been saying that for some time, as you know. I'll bring you this new evidence later. Then in the Uncancelled Aftershow on Substack, Jack Whitehall, you know, the comedian, he's revealed he was ghosted by Prince Harry after he met Meghan Markle. And by the way, Meghan Markle is launching a cringeworthy PR fight back. Angela Evans, she's going to dish it all in the Aftershow on Substack. www.outspoken.live is where you sign up. Then stick with us right till the end of the show, because we're going to be revealing today's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass, the nominees for Union Jackass from you. Nominee 1 from Carolyn Lamis, Angela Rayner for the Islamophobia group and potentially confirming Sharia law through the back door. So much damage can be done. Nominated by Fat Faye, Leonie Mallinger for the Starmer lies. That's the voice coach, by the way. And nominee 3, the Greater Manchester Police, nominated by Diane at Mother Clanger for doxing that poor man who burned a Quran. Can you believe that? Now, the great thing, if you're watching live, is that you can vote. The choice of Union Jackass today is down to you. All you have to do is go into the live chat on YouTube right now, place your vote. Stay tuned, because I will announce the winners at the end of the show. But now, let's go. There is no doubt anymore. Britain's effed up uni party, a uni party trying to change the shape of our United Kingdom forever against our will, and our even more effed up two-party Westminster system is over. The MSM and political establishment just don't realise it yet. So buckle up, losers. It's going to be a bumpy ride for you. The most significant poll in the country last night showed Reform UK in the lead, making the prospect of PM Farage very, very real. As the party's chairman, Zia Youssef, put it, 220 seats is more like it, but we will win 350 to 400 at the next election. And the stats from YouGov are astonishing. Indeed, the pollster Matt Goodwin declared after the survey, Only people with dementia in care homes are saying they'll vote Tory now. Indeed, Reform is attracting 1 in 3 men in Britain, is more popular than the Tories among 25 to 64-year-olds, and is the most popular party among the working classes. And Goodwin added, if Farage can turn mass immigration into the new Brexit and mobilise leavers around a new cluster of issues which are highly correlated with Brexit, then he will start to break through in a very, very big way, which is what clearly he is doing by targeting these core and also highly salient issues. But perhaps the only difficult issue for Reform at the moment is one particularly salient for working class folk: the persecution by the state of the political prisoner, Tommy Robinson. So on one side of this debate, you have Farage and Tice strongly opposed to anything connected to Tommy, the party's official leadership. But on the other side, you have the party's 2 other star MPs, Rupert Lowe and Lee Anderson. And both have spoken out in the past 24 hours, taking the Elon Musk position on this highly controversial issue. So first, Rupert Lowe made that very, very clear during an appearance with Michelle Dewberry on GB News.
Well, with regard to the issue that you raise about Tommy Robinson's visitation rights, I mean, he should be treated, and I actually did write to the authorities about this to say I hope that he would be looked after as all other prisoners are looked after and treated in exactly the same way. I mean, under the law, we're all supposed to be treated equally, and I think it's wrong if you're not. So he deserves to be looked after correctly. He deserves to have the right visitation rights. And as I understand it, the march on the weekend was actually very peaceful, unlike some other marches we've had recently in London. So credit to the people who had a peaceful march. They have every right to march. They're basically solid British citizens who believe in the nation state, and they have every right to express their opinions on that. So I'm publicly, I put out a statement, Michelle, saying Tommy Robinson deserves credit for what he's done on the grooming gangs. I think he does. That doesn't mean to say he's right for reform. He's never wanted to be part of reform.
No, but
he should be treated properly.
Understood. Has he ever actually come out? Because I find it quite interesting that Reform UK are constantly coming out going, Tom Robinson's not welcome, and it's like, it's a little bit, it's like saying to, I'm not going to go on a date with you, I'm not going to go on a date. Well, I haven't even asked to go on a date with you, thanks.
Well, it's a case of render unto Tommy Robinson what is Tommy Robinson's and render unto Reform what is Reform's. I think that's how it should be.
Yeah, but I just think it's very, very odd that you're all kind of going around going, Tommy Robinson's not welcome, and I don't know. I don't know Tommy Robinson. Maybe
Michelle, I've never said that. I've never said
Reform.
that.
I find it very odd.
There you go. I never said that. I never said that. Because, of course, who did say that? His leader, Nigel Farage. That was swiftly followed by Lee Anderson with the Daily Express.
On that, Robinson, do you think that there is a case that he's done a decent job in terms of raising awareness about...
Tommy Robinson says a lot of things that a lot of people agree with, and on the grooming gangs, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there I agree with him on. He's highlighted some stuff. But anybody would agree with, I think. I mean, this rape scandal has been going on not just a few years, it's left a dark stain.
There's this sort of woke ideology that, like, you can't say, you've got to be careful about things that you say.
No, you haven't got to be careful. They're Pakistani Muslim rape gangs. It's as simple as that. It's plain English. And politicians that are covering up for this, or not saying this, are up to their necks in it. They're covering up. We know that, you know, it's going to come out eventually.
It's all very interesting to me. What I personally hope is that Nigel and Richard see that this messaging from Rupert and Lee is actually much more effective. But with Elon seeming to back Rupert and not resolving his feud with Farage, anything is possible once the party democratises. Meanwhile, the MSM continues to hammer away with the status quo. Kay Burley of Sly News, soon to be off television, had this testy exchange with Tice this morning regarding the Trump tariffs.
He says he's having a chat with him on the phone this morning, but as far as he's concerned, Canada, Mexico, China, it's a done deal.
And let's see where it ends up. It may well be a done deal.
But if it's a done deal, what's it going to do to the global economy? And what impact is it going to have on our economy?
You're clearly not interested in what's happening in the UK. I am. I'm negotiating on behalf of British citizens what's right for us.
Why do you say that? Why am I not interested?
Because you're focused on...
I've lived in this country a lot longer than you.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's focus on what's going on in Britain, not what's going on in Mexico and Canada. That's what's of real interest to us. And we've got to get this economy growing by cutting out daft regulation, stop sending our money overseas, scrap net zero, and that it gives us the space.
Are you supporting massive tariffs or not?
Look, tariffs are a negotiation. I've said that. What I'm supporting is we've got to focus on the UK. You seem to be focusing on Mexico and Canada. I'm focusing on the UK.
You missed out China, and I was then going to go on to Europe.
Yeah, you can go on all those. Let's focus on Britain, shall we? What works? What makes British citizens better off? You're not interested in that.
You
haven't asked me about it. You haven't.
But she isn't. She wasn't. He wasn't speaking rubbish. Burley has no interest. All she wants to do is spark division. And actually, it came hot on the heels. I don't know if you caught this yesterday. It seemed to go under the radar. But this revoltingly biased question posed by Beth Rigby of Sly News to Slippery Starmer about Donald Trump. Watch.
And Prime Minister, President Trump says tariffs on the EU are coming. He hasn't ruled out tariffs on the UK. Are you worried about that? And be it from forcing Ukraine to the negotiating table to threatening trade wars with allies, isn't it the truth that President Trump is a bad thing for Europe's economic prosperity and security? Thank you very much.
On your first question, let me say that...
Isn't it true? No, it's not true, Beth. Goodness me. Can't wait till she's out of job. But look, the thing is, elites like her and Kay Burley are losing. They might not know it yet, but they should, because it is over. And no moment of the past week actually summed that up more to me than this from the BBC, where Yasmin Alabaya-Brown, that completely revolting, divisive, troubled soul who is given platform after platform, day after day by the MSM, was completely exposed for her anti-English narrative in a debate with Emma Webb and Stephen Wolfe.
Acknowledged one of those points that Emma made about the fact that it puts the social cohesion, that people coming here
Listen,
in large numbers. So she's talking about large numbers.
So you go to the Red Wall. I go to the Red Wall a lot and argue with people in pubs. I do this as a duty, as a journalist, right? And I ask them, what attempt have you, and these are white people, have you made to integrate with those who come into your society? Why is the pressure always on us, the problem people? Why don't we say to more white people, integrate better, especially in those areas?
They haven't chosen to move to another country.
Don't interrupt me. Okay? Why don't we say integration is a dance?
So
you need two people.
You need two people on both sides.
And only one side gets lectured.
That is a fair point, isn't it, Stephen?
No, it's not. It's actually, these people have chosen to come to a different country. And if I chose to go to Spain, I'd want to integrate into Spain. I'd want to learn the language.
But that Brits don't do that.
And just give me the same courtesy that you requested of Robert Jenner. So I'm just turning around and saying that when I went to Portugal, I wanted to integrate with Portugal. I started to learn the language when I was there. I went out with people to show me about their culture, the food, the fadas, the dancing. And that's exactly, it was my choice to go there, my choice to integrate in that culture. It is a responsibility on the individual that goes to a place. You cannot take that responsibility and place it on a different country and say, you change for them. That's unacceptable.
So let's just think about that for a moment, shall we? Yasmin Alabaya-Brown thinks it's my responsibility as an English white person to integrate with a group of people that literally want to throw me off the top of buildings. Oh, and by the way, if I keep saying this, very shortly, Angela Rayner is going to decide that I should be locked up in prison. Utterly nuts. Completely and utterly nuts. But the days of Yasmin and people like Yasmin, people like Beth Rigby, people like Kay Burley dominating the debate with ludicrous positions like that is nearly over. Now, my superstar panel. And I am delighted to be joined today by YouTube sensation June Slater and the conservative commentator Leilani Dowding. So great to see you both. And boy, we have so much to discuss. But look, I want to kick off actually with this issue of Tommy Robinson within Reform UK. There's lots of people already in the live chat saying, Dan, what are you doing? You shouldn't even be bringing this up. Focus on the division in the left. And look, I understand that. And you will also know that I've said a heck of a lot of positive things about Reform UK today. I believe there's even a bit of a split on this issue within our superstar panel, which doesn't usually happen between June and Leilani. So June, let me kick off with you because you are the person that says, stop focusing on this. Stop talking about splits between Tommy Robinson and Reform UK. It doesn't matter. And you trust that Nigel has taken his position for strategic reasons.
I don't think you're going to change his mind. And I don't think it's malicious. I don't think he gets it right. And I prefer he didn't do it. Well, that's my choice. And I was told by somebody from ITV who contacted me, a backroom person, who said it's the media that are driving this division because basically the MPs, the Reform MPs, don't actually talk about this topic unless they're asked. Every time Nigel goes on a show, he's got a limited time span. And what do they bring up? Tommy Robinson. He said it, not in a way that I would say it, but he said it more than once, that Tommy's not interested in reform. Reform isn't interested in Tommy. It goes way too far in my book, but it eats into the minutes that he's got to talk about his politics. And when you've got sensible policies like Reform have, the last thing the mainstream media want is extensive airtime for him to talk to you about that. So let's waste 2 or 3 minutes on Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson, to me, would be like Elton John joining Reform. There would be so much attention on Tommy, it would completely sidetrack whatever Reform we're trying to do. And I don't think there's a split in the party. I don't think that the behind the scenes that Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage are talking about Tommy Robinson, I don't think they bring it up. I think that journalists bring it up because it's in their interest to do it. It's tantalising, isn't it? It's something to talk about on a slack news day. But I don't think there's actually a split. I think people like Rupert and Lee Anderson are their own men and will behave how they want to, and no one will dictate to them. It's not exactly a Reform policy. It's a stance that Nigel has taken. And at the end of the day, it's, as I keep reminding everyone, Reform's the getaway car. And if you're complaining about the driver, you better stand and take the punishment because they're the only thing on offer. We're back to Brexit. And Nigel is the face that the public will recognise who don't follow social media, who don't come on down Wootton, who are waiting for the BBC and the ITV news channels to tell them what to think. So he will get on those channels. And I actually believe...
Oh, just when June was saying, I actually believe, her sound has gone. But I do get your point, June. We'll get that sorted. But Leilani, I do agree with what June is saying. Maybe my only slight area of disagreement is saying that they are not talking about this issue within Reform UK. Because remember, it was Elon Musk who put this issue on the map. And what's really fascinating is that in recent days, Elon Musk appears to be coming pretty close to endorsing Rupert Lowe. I mean, when Rupert posted the other day, Reform now 4 points ahead in the latest polling, we're going to win the next election, real change is coming. Elon replied to Rupert saying, true, in the past, Elon would have been making that comment to Nigel Farage.
This is where I do differ slightly from June and agree with you because when I see Rupert, when I see Lee Anderson talking, they're talking in a way that I think Nigel should. Yes, it is the media, as June said, pushing this, asking about Tommy, eating into the minutes. But Nigel should just say what they say and not go into detail and start bashing him, which is what he's done. Nigel starts bringing up his record, his criminal record, which actually, if you look at the mortgage fraud nonsense, it's very similar what happened to Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago, where he got in trouble for mortgage fraud because he had got a self-cert mortgage, which had been paid off, and then they later came after him. And the media keep using this. And then, you know, someone like Nigel Farage will bring this up, which, you know, I don't know why he needs to put Tommy down in order to build himself up. Lee Anderson hasn't, nor has Rupert Lowe. And I think they've handled the questions about Tommy in a very decent way. And now, if you look at what Michelle Dewberry says, it's a shame the mainstream media isn't more like her, where she said, look, Tommy has never asked to join Reform. It's not even a question. Just say, Nigel could just say, Tommy has never asked to join. It's, you know, it's a non-issue. He's never asked to join. It doesn't matter. And we'll cross that bridge if it came to it. But he doesn't do that. So that's where I disagree. And also, obviously, with Richard Tice saying that, you know, we're one of those people. But when he was interviewed by Kay Burley, I agreed fully with what Richard Tice said, how she was going on about the tariffs. And what do we see? Canada and Mexico have folded. He was right. They used it as Trump used it as a bargaining chip to get what he wanted and to get the borders secured from fentanyl. So that was what he wanted to sort out. He wanted to sort out the fentanyl and the illegals coming across the border. Both have sent 10,000 troops up to their borders, down to their borders, and they're securing them. So, you know, it was a risk and it paid off. And he did write the book, what is it called? The Art of the Deal. So, you know, we've got to know that he's a master negotiator there. And this is why we need business people in charge of this country, not idiots that know nothing about business, like we have with Labour, Keir Starmer, Rachel from Accounts, Angela Rayner, no brainer, you know, all of these people. So, you know, for me, even with this, you know, divide about Tommy, and I'm a big, big supporter of Tommy publicly, I still absolutely go for reform.
June, do you want to come back on any of that? I promise I didn't cut you off on purpose, by the way.
I do agree with Leilani. I think Nigel Farage, you know, when he's saying it, I feel like going, oh, for God's sake, just don't say anything. Deflect it. If it was me, I'd turn around to the journalist and I'd say, why do you want to talk about this? Most of the country are bothered about the bills. Most of the country are bothered about energy prices, not Tommy Robinson. So I would deflect it. I'd knock it back over the net. I think that would be a better approach. I'm not happy with his approach. But what I'm saying is I don't think it's something that's consciously discussed within the Reform Party. I think, you know, you've got to remember there's only 5 of them. They've got the constituency business, and then they'll work as a collective on who's handling which topic nationally. You've only got to look at how much ground they cover in these back cabinet debates, like on farming or DEFRA or even the WHO pandemic treaty. They cover everything in these back cabinet debates, and they're all really good at it once they get their teeth into it. Even the new guy, and I can never remember his name. So
James
there's a lot
McMurdoch.
more going on. James McMurdoch, that's it.
And I think he will be a star in the future, actually.
Yeah, I think he will. I think he's got a lot of potential, especially to say how new he is. And the great thing about this is because Nigel's surrounded himself with very, very strong men like Rupert and like, you know, my favourite ferret owner, Lee Anderson. He has never had a ferret, by the way, just something I made up. The strong men,
What?
They're not going to be dictated to.
Sorry, Jane, you've got to back up there. You're going to have to explain that one to me. I can't let that slide.
Somebody came on my thread about Lee Anderson, and it was a lefty who said he should get back down the pit and start racing his ferrets again. And so it's this kind of thing to talk about Lee Anderson having ferrets. And I said, he's an upmarket miner, actually. He was stood in the pub and he said, oh, why don't you come in and bring your Yorkshire Terrier? The more the merrier. We'll drink a Perrier. And it was a joke that Lee Anderson had made. He's never had any ferrets. I don't know if he's had any ferrets. But this guy comes on my thread repeatedly going on about Lee Anderson having ferrets because he's a working class bloke. I think Lee's great. I've had a few run-ins with him in the past. But these two men aren't going to be dictated to about what they want to believe in. They've said what they believe in. Tommy's done a good job on grooming gangs. He has. Half of the working class nation who follow politics actually understand what Tommy's tried to do. I support him. I try and dodge around it when I'm writing anything because I don't want to lose my damn page on Facebook. But it's not because I don't believe in what Tommy's done. I think he's getting a rough ride. Thankfully, someone's been to see him today. It's the first visit he's had for God knows how long, because they were stopping visits by people who have podcasts or a high social media presence. But someone's been to see him today. I think, if someone like Richard Tice sticks to topics like he was with Kay Burley, he comes across very well, and he's obviously very knowledgeable. He's been around politics a while. But I think this opens the doors for people to enter politics, jockey on the back of reform, wear their colours, get into Parliament, show people what you can do, just like Rupert and Lee. And then that way, those people will keep the seat, whoever they're representing. And that way, we could actually get independence in power, where it will be a like-mindedness rather than a party political situation with the country. I'd like to see reform strong enough to accept independent candidates jockeying alongside them with the same basic ethos, so we don't have to back a political party. But it would be foolhardy not to understand that there's only one offer here to get us away from the youth. There's one person offering that. That's Nigel. And he's the face that's recognised. It's the supermarket test. I've done it. You stand outside with a clipboard. You have 4 names. You can have Tommy Robinson. You could have Ben Habib. You could have Richard Tice and Nigel Farage. Everyone will know Nigel. Some will know Tommy. And some of those that know Tommy will see him in a bad light because they've listened to the media. And they won't know who Ben is. And they won't know who Richard is. They just don't know it because they're not following politics. They're busy picking the kids up from school and going to the gym, looking after their elderly parents. So the acid test is you need a face that's recognisable, like Colonel Sanders on a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken. You know, when you see that face, it's going to be good stuff. And that's what you're getting with Nigel Farage. He's the brand. He's the brand that will take them forward. This is one chance. He's out of it after that. At his age, he's not going to hang around till he's 80 doing this, is he? And he's got strong men around him. So that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, as long as those strong men, I'm with you, June, as long as those strong men like Rupert Lowe and Lee Anderson are able to continue saying what they think, I think that will work well. Because, of course, what we want is for the Overton window, which I keep talking about, to shift, which it partly will shift because of Trump, because of what's happening with Trump, but also because of what Rupert and Lee say, reflecting the views of the wider party. So on that, I agree with you. But breaking right now, it is going to become even harder to be honest about a cult, a religious cult, which is potentially causing huge damage to the UK and the Western world, with Angela Rayner, can you believe this, the Deputy Prime Minister, to set rules regarding Islam and free speech. The worst thing is that former Conservative, but let's be honest, he's a complete lefty, Dominic Grieve, Ramona in chief, tipped to head up an advisory council, which critics warn will effectively create a blasphemy law, which effectively will allow criticism of Sharia law to see someone like me thrown in jail. It's utterly terrifying. Christopher Hitchens warned against this type of dystopian policy, but here we are in 2025, and it looks like it's going to happen. Huge reaction, as you can imagine, from sound people on this. Matt Goodwin posted on X, I am struggling to think of anything worse than the Labour Party under Angela Rayner creating a new council to define Islamophobia and putting Dominic Grieve in charge of it. Burmese Spofford wrote, blasphemy laws, WTF, Angela Rayner is to create a council on Islamophobia. The death of free speech entirely. But what's so shocking is only the Daily Telegraph has really focused on this story today. It's been ignored through the rest of the media, just like, by the way, they ignore the inconvenient truth that Axel Rudakabana was an Islamist extremist. So I feel we're entering into terrifying times. Let me bring my superstar panel in, June Slater and Lilani Dowding. June, utterly terrifying. I mean, look, number one, there should be no blasphemy laws in a free society. We are completely free citizens and we should be able to criticize religion in whatever way we choose. But when this is a religion specifically, June, that doesn't believe you shouldn't be in public showing your face, doesn't believe you should be in public working or driving a car, and actually wants to throw me off the top of a building, how terrifying is it that Labour is giving in to these truly sectarian forces?
Well, it's not just terrifying. It's an outward and visible sign of what they're doing, which is saving the voter base. They've relied on the Islamic vote for so long. And as we've seen with this last election, they've kind of set up on their own. There's some Islamists now, Blackburn is an MP that's an Islamist. He's not belonging to any party. They're losing ground there. So, and her constituency, I believe, is, a pretty high proportion of people there. What I don't understand is how they can't see the long-term effects that this will have. They're not going to save the voting base by doing this. They'll just get used while they get strong enough to take more and more political ground. And giving them this is just what they want. I wonder sometimes how people like Sikhs and Hindus feel, who haven't really caused this country any problems. I've never gone around wondering if there's going to be a terror attack from a Sikh or a Hindu. They seem to have lived in this country quite peaceably. So what does it say about everybody else's religion? They're stopping women from praying in the street in their heads. And yet this, as you say, it's ineffective. In effect, it's a kind of blasphemy law. So what do? Just keep off the topic and don't discuss it at all when it's got some very, very unsavoury thought process to it. Does that mean... we've got people coming to this country for sanctuary because they're gay in the Middle East. That's a lot of the reasons that people come away from the Middle East, because they want to leave that regime. What are we creating here for those people? I really think this is a dark place that Labour are taking us to, but whatever it is, it's a piece of paper and it can be ripped up if the right government get in. I think the busiest thing that reform will have will be repeal.
Well, indeed. Although we might all be in jail by that point. Although I guess the point is, if we all continue to speak out, then they can't do that. I mean, I'm going to find it absolutely fascinating seeing how the Labour Party tries to deal with someone like Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who was, of course, an activist who came from a Muslim background, understood exactly what they did, and as a result turned on them, and they've been trying to kill her ever since. Or, look, I could list a whole load of people like that. But Lilani, I think one of the things that is most disturbing about this is that it stops the truth now even coming out when it's connected to really serious crimes. So, of course, Axel Rudikabana, I've called him an Islamist extremist. So has Douglas Murray. So have a lot of very sound people. Suella Braverman, who also, by the way, has warned of the fact that the UK could be taken over by an Islamist government within 20 years. Brave thing to do. But look at this school stabbing yesterday, Lilani, in Sheffield. Now, we don't know, and we probably never will know exactly why a young white boy, 15 years old, was stabbed to death by a 15-year-old pupil. But Lilani, I can tell you something has changed in our society. And it's not just here, it's throughout the West. Very, very disturbing breaking news this afternoon. 10 people believed to be dead in Sweden after a heavily armed shooter stalked the corridors with students fleeing for their lives. Now, that's Sweden, Lilani. Of course, it's too early before anyone tries to jump on the bandwagon and get me locked up. I don't know anything about this shooter yet in Sweden. But I do know, Lilani, that Sweden used to be a very, very safe, harmonious country. And because of Muslim immigration, it no longer is. And now 10 people have just been shot at a school.
And you know what, Dan? In the Netherlands, a little Dutch girl, 11 years old, was stabbed by a Syrian man within the last couple of days too. So, you know, this is happening and they really want to clamp down on us talking about it. I read I think it's a diversity and inclusion statement of that school, All Saints School in Sheffield, which said they will designate prayer times to Muslim teachers and students. And that's a Catholic school because they have to be diverse and inclusive. So we might not be allowed to talk about this. Now, to me, it is an absolute attack on the freedom of speech. I don't think it should happen over any religion. Look, I've got my cross on. I went to a Catholic school. If I want to talk about the horrific crimes that the Catholic priests have done in the past that we've heard about with children, then I should be able to do that. There should be no law that stops that. And there are Muslims and former Muslims that actually want to talk about some of the bad sides of Islam or some of the extremist countries, or say the Islamic State in Iran. And they've said that this is not a good idea. I don't know why Labour think that they should start cracking down on speech when it comes to Islam. You know, like, I've seen people burning British flags and no one's got this. The guy that burnt the Quran got arrested immediately and he's in court already. It's like, I don't know what, personally, I don't know why he did it, because, you know, he's more than likely to get shot or have a target put on his head, like the guy over in Scandinavia that just got shot, who previously, allegedly, for the guy that burnt a Quran. So look, I just think it's a very, very dangerous, slippery slope, and you wouldn't see the police acting that quickly if somebody burnt a Bible, would you? So, you know, it's dangerous.
It's incredibly dangerous. And June, Angela Rayner is the woman in charge of this. Angela Rayner.
Well, you know, fair play to lass. She's done all right for herself, hasn't she? But come on. I mean, this is like the front bench. This is, I mean, I'm going to use the phrase, you can't get staff, because this is the best. This is the creme de la creme. And you look back at previous politicians and the caliber that we had. And this is, we're going down the plug hole here with these people. I mean, she's not up to the job. It's as simple as that. I don't look at my country now and think it's in good hands with any of them. You know, you've got idiots. I mean, I can say what I want on my social media, and I do insult some people, but they've usually started on me first. But I'm not the foreign minister like Lammy. I'm not Angela Rayner, no brainer. It's abysmal. In fact, it's toe-cringingly embarrassing. And this law that she's supposed to be overseeing, it's all down to interpretation. It's just like when we were locked down with the COVID wardens. It's all down to interpretation, and some of them are overzealous. And that will happen with this. It's all down to the interpretation of what is Islamophobic. I mean, even the guy, what's he called? Trevor, can never remember his name. Him that invented the word, turned around 4 years later and said, there's no such thing. Trevor Phillips. He now says there's no such things. Now he's gone back on that. It's not an irrational fear. It's a logical explanation for why you're afraid. Because I'm worried that I'll sit in a country, by the time I'm at my weakest in my life, which will be in my 80s, that I'll be in a country that doesn't approve of someone like me. And yet all I've done is I've never been in trouble with the police. I've paid my taxes. I've run my home, run my businesses. I've lived a rational life. And yet I will not be suitable when I'm at my weakest, when I'm elderly. And I just think, but again, if we move them out, if we bulldoze this party out with the right people, I couldn't give a monkeys if there's any division about Tommy Robinson in the Reform Party. All I'm looking at is the big picture. There's so many issues. We need at least to give Reform a go. They're further forward than anybody else. They're setting up branches. It's the only way we can go. We have to see if Nigel and his team let us down or move forward, because everything can be repealed. We don't have to put up with anything. And I know from what I've talked, when I've talked to people, they will take on the civil service. They will take on the civil service. There won't be people working at Border Force that and letting people in. There won't be people working at Border Force that don't speak English. That isn't going to happen. That's going to be tidied up. And they can tidy it up because they will be using IT specialists that this government haven't even heard of. So this can happen. That once they tidy the civil service up and the media, we're rocking and rolling. The rest will fall into place.
And by the way, can I just remind everyone of this image of Angela Rayner during the election campaign? Now, Angela Rayner, she's one of these lefties who would say, I'm the real feminist. But there she was, surrounded by Muslim men and not another woman there, or certainly not another Asian woman there. And that was okay with Angela Rayner because she needed their votes. Breaking right now, Slippery Starmer, the cheating, lying Prime Minister who hasn't even told us the truth about the shape of his family, now clearly violated both the moral spirit of the lockdown rules, which I never supported, by the way, but he certainly did, but actually the letter of the law too. So this story about Starmer's special relationship with his key worker vocal coach, voice coach, who did a very bad job, by the way, because he still sounds like a robot when he's public speaking, is getting worse by the hour. New from Dominic Penner of the Daily Telegraph. Sir Keir Starmer's voice coach travelled between COVID tears in December 2020. Leonie Mallinger was in Labour HQ in London, Tier 4, on Christmas Eve, but went home later that day. She spent the Christmas break in Brighton, Tier 3, until Boxing Day. Guido Fawkes, which has been all over this story, says that a number 10 spokesman won't deny that the PM would have to resign over any historical lockdown breach. And there are so many facets to this. Christian Calgi of the Daily Express revealing that in July 2021, Leonie Mallinger said that she had gone back to in-person coaching. That was 6 months after helping Keir Starmer in person. As he says, why only then if it was fine to do in-person coaching in December 2020? And let's be honest, we know it wasn't fine. We know Starmer broke the lockdown rules. He also did so with the Beargate and the Currygate in Durham. But the mainstream media simply do not want to put the question to him because the only person they cared about breaking lockdown rules was Boris Johnson. Now, what was fascinating is during Keir Starmer's press conference when he was in Europe yesterday, there were only questions chosen by the BBC, ITV and Sky News. Not one of those three organisations asked him a single thing about the lockdown breach. So when Starmer was walking off stage, it was left to the Daily Mail and The Sun to holler out questions, leaving Starmer furious. Watch.
The front. Thank you very much.
All right, that's all we have time for. Thank you.
Of course not.
What do you mean, of course not? You clearly did. That's not good enough. Look at the way that you called on people to justify their every move. You've got to do the same thing now, mate. At least Katie Hopkins is loving this, though.
Is failing harder than cheap toilet paper. He can't keep his own shit in order at this point. He's lied about simply everything from pensions to taxation to monetary policy, and now he's going to raise council tax by 10%. He even broke rules during lockdown when he had his vocal coach over to give him some lessons, and she did a pretty poor job because he still sounds like he's got a major stinking cold even when he's denying stuff he obviously did.
Yes, exactly. If this woman really is a voice coach, she's the worst voice coach in history. But a serious question to the mainstream media and the usual suspects. Where are you on this? Where are you, Emily Maitlis of the fake news agents? Where are you, Paul Brand of ITV? Woke ITV? Where are you, Sam Coates and Beth Rigby of Sly News? Where are you, Peston? Where are you, Kevin Maguire? All of you were obsessed with Boris Johnson's lockdown breaking, but don't seem to give a damn here. And actually, some of you have pointed this out spectacularly over on X. Alexander Hall wrote, given that Paul Brand still has a post about Partygate as his pinned tweet and posted relentlessly about it, I'm sure he's going to report on Keir Starmer breaking lockdown to see his voice coach any minute now. Adam Brooks wrote, will Paul Brand, Emily Maitlis, Carol Vorderman, Gary Lineker, Beth Rigby, Allah now call for Keir Starmer to resign, post on X daily, call out his hypocrisy and lies? Of course they won't. And Thomas McNeely wrote to me, saying, remember, Dan Wootton, how the dumb as rock Tory MPs removed Boris over cake? The Labour MPs not doing that to Starmer. What they did still makes me mad. You were the only one on GB News who said what I was thinking at the time. We are proven right. It was all a game to remove Boris. And of course it was. And there is a really serious side to all of this, because you know I was completely opposed to the lockdown laws, and history has proven me right. But a lot of people missed out on moments they could never get back. As Reform UK's Rupert Lowe posted on X, men and women were left to rot and die alone. But Keir Starmer could meet his sodding voice coach? It stinks. From Ben Habib. If the voice coach was attending Keir Starmer in a professional capacity, he will have an invoice for her services. If not, he either breached lockdown laws or HMRC will want a word with them. Which one is it, Sir Keir? And from Lee Harris, am I the only one who finds it incredibly suspicious that Keir Starmer went to this voice coach on Christmas Eve? I mean, who does that? Who chooses to do something so unimportant, breaking lockdown restrictions over spending time with their family? Utterly bizarre. And as the reply there says, which family? But then you look at the real toll and the heartbreak that stories like this cause people, like Fat Bald Bloke on X, not a funny post, but a funny name nonetheless, who said, I wish I'd thought of saying I was my dad's voice coach so I would have been able to see him in hospital before he died. Being his son wasn't enough at the time. And Labour have been typically despicable and arrogant about this. A spokesman for the party saying this is just more desperate mudslinging from the Conservatives who partied their way through lockdown. No, it's not. It really isn't. In fact, I'd be very surprised if Kemi Badenoch even had the balls to bring this up tomorrow at PMQs, but she really, really should. So let me bring in my superstar panel, June Slater and Lalani Dowding on this. Lalani, wow. This guy so obviously broke the rules, and the MSM are completely silent. Not a word on the BBC's flagship bulletin last night, Lalani. Not a word.
Well, first of all, Katie Hopkins, national treasure, saying that. Absolutely love her. But you're right, the mainstream again have dropped the ball. They don't care. Actually, they haven't dropped it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about the hypocrisy, which is what pisses us off so much. Sorry, I was trying to find a better word.
Say it, Lalani. We're all feeling it.
It's the hypocrisy, Dan. It's like, it's just so frustrating. I know I didn't follow the rules. I thought they were absolute nonsense and BS, and I broke them all the time. But I never once tried to get anyone to lose their job for breaking them. So his obsession and Labour's obsession and the media's obsession with Boris Johnson and party, whatever it was, whatever gate it was, and the hypocrisy of it, because then when you find out that he had a vocal coach, which is so unimportant, Christmas Eve, it makes you just want to scream. And then when you see people like, Fat Bold Bloke, that's his name, I'm not making fun of him, that was his name on Twitter, as you showed, writing that heartbreaking thing about his dad. That is the reality. People weren't allowed to be with their loved ones. They were not allowed to be with their parents, their brothers, their sisters as they died. They were not allowed to go to funerals. They were not allowed to say goodbye, right? And that is the reality of it. And meanwhile, now we see that Keir Starmer has broken rules as well, allegedly. So, we pretty much know it's it's so angry. I don't actually even have the words for how this makes me feel.
And the thing is, I don't even feel like there's any allegedly about it, right? He's just being protected. He's being protected by the usual suspects, okay? Because he also broke the laws in Durham with Beargate. I saw it with my own eyes via the videos. And he was there downing booze, eating curry. They lied about Angela Rayner being in attendance. So he was just as bad as everyone else, June Slater.
And that's the thing. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. No.
No. And that's the thing. It's like, you know, I was angry about Boris doing it, not because I was being a hypocrite, not because I even cared that he did it, but the fact that he locked us down. So then when you see Starmer and Rayner attacking Boris and Labour all attacking Boris, it's like, well, you did it too. You do need to step down. You do need to step down, Keir. It's absolutely disgusting. It's hypocritical. It's another lie. And we don't want somebody like that running the country. Not when they have their own rules and expect us to live by this BS that they make up.
I mean, June Slater, here was the picture of the piece of cake that he didn't even know was coming, that ended up causing Boris Johnson, a prime minister elected in a landslide, whatever you think of him and whatever you think of his policies. I'm sorry, if that's what got Boris to go, then the fact that Keir Starmer was insisting on seeing his voice coach for some reason on Christmas Eve, wonder where his family was, June.
Well, what gets me is Leonie Mellinger was an actress. How important is a voice coach on Christmas Eve? She used to be married to Robin Asquith. Leonie won't be old enough to remember this, but there used to be these films called Confessions of a Window Cleaner, Confessions of a Bus Driver. And Robin Asquith was this young man with a rugged face and a tight pair of buttocks that was always pictured jumping in and out of bed with various people, and she used to be married to him. So she's an actress that's now a voice coach, allegedly. What gets me is this isn't someone who's been brought in to discuss how to improve lockdown measures. This wasn't someone who was brought in on very urgent business. This is just what I call fannying about. A voice coach, and he doesn't sound. I'm very good on picking voices out. I can have the TV on in another room and I can shout to David, is that John Wayne? Is that so and so? His voice has not changed at all since he was in opposition. His voice is no different in tone. It's no different in his breathing. It's exactly the same. So what were they talking about? I mean, this is just so pathetic and immaterial. It is not necessary to have a meeting with your voice coach. But that's what they've done with us. They shut the gyms. You couldn't get exercise. You know, one woman I know, a 70-year-old husband, went in for a knee operation. And unfortunately, when he was coming out, it was lockdown. So they wouldn't let him out. He caught COVID, allegedly, in the hospital and subsequently died. She never saw him again. And this is what's happened to people. Lawrence Fox told me on the phone he will never get over what went on. He said they put his mother died during lockdown, nothing to do with the virus. And he said they put his mother in the ground like toxic waste. And that is how people have been left. Well, this clown, this utter clown, I think what I see when I look at Keir Starmer is a very angry and bitter man that he's not able to just push full weight communism on us quickly as possible. He has to jump through these hoops. And the company he's keeping in the EU, like Mark Rutte, who's been, he's lost his position as the Prime Minister of Belgium? Rutte? And now where is he? He's in some bigwig job with the EU. Have you noticed how these people get moved about like chess pieces? Same with Tusk. Exactly. He lost his position.
All protected, June. They are all protected. And for example, are you really telling me that no one in the mainstream media knew that Starmer was having this Leonie Mellinger dragged in to him? Well, I mean, it was a total... It was a total cover-up, wasn't it? And by the way, just to make you even angrier, here's a reminder, I think it is important to show you this, of what Keir Starmer, Slippery Starmer, was telling all of us at that time.
It's very important that whatever the rules are, everybody follows them. So I say follow the government advice. Whatever tier you're in, follow the rules. It's very important that we all say that, the government and the opposition.
Unless you need to bring in your former actress voice coach on Christmas Eve. Much, much more from June Slater and Lilani Dowding in just 1 minute, because there have been bombshell developments today in the Lucy Letby case. I mean, seriously, folks, if you haven't trusted me on this one up until now, I implore you to stick around and listen in, because this really, really is turning out to be the biggest miscarriage of justice in British history. I understand if you've only been listening to what the MSM has to say about it, but just trust me, you're not going to believe it. But first, this episode is sponsored by Manscaped, the brand trusted by over 11 million men worldwide for their face and body trimmers, hygiene essentials, and premium boxers. If so many men swear by them, including me, you can bet your Valentine will too. So yes, the countdown to Valentine's Day is ticking down faster than stores slash prices on chocolate on February the 15th. And this time around, we're going to raise the bar, okay? Because I'm sure you've watched your man try for that rom-com leading man charm only to land in scruffy sidekick territory. But not this year, because we're treating them to the VIP experience. Meet the Handyman Rocket Man Special Edition from Manscaped, a sleek, compact face grooming essential that guarantees your partner's face is on track for heartthrob status all year round. Now available in the Special Edition Rocket Man colorway featuring gold and black. And just a quick word of advice though, there are limited quantities available in this color, so you'll need to act fast. You can use the code Outspoken for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. What's so incredible about the Handyman, I absolutely love it, is a cordless product designed for convenience, so it will easily fit into a bathroom drawer or slip into an overnight or gym bag for easy grooming on the go. It's perfect for those last second touch-ups when your reservation is in 15 minutes and he's looking a bit more lost in the woods than leading man in a love story. Engineered with a unique dual blade system, it features both a standard foil shaver and a long hair trimming blade to handle up to 3 days of beard growth. What's even better is the Handyman comes equipped with skin-safe technology designed to help reduce nicks and cuts for the perfect clean shave. After all, who wants a sharp reminder of their grooming session on a romantic evening out? It's also waterproof with up to 60 minutes of runtime per charge. Whether your guy is a grooming newbie or a seasoned pro, the Handyman in the Special Edition Rocket Man colorway is the perfect upgrade to his grooming regime. And just in time to make this Valentine's Day extra special, Manscaped has a 30-day money back guarantee, so you can try risk-free. Just use the code Outspoken and you will get 20% off and free international shipping on your entire order when you check out. That's manscaped.com, using the code Outspoken for free shipping and a whopping 20% discount on your entire order. But now, back to the show. Breaking right now, a bombshell in the Lucy Letby case, which, mark my words, is shaping up to be the biggest miscarriage of justice in British history. If you have only listened to the MSM on this story, if you have only believed the narrative that somehow this beautiful blonde young woman turned into an angel of death despite having no motive and despite there being no evidence of her murdering any baby, please listen to me, because this could be your sister, your wife, your girlfriend locked up for the rest of her life for simply doing her job. So the big news today, and this is incredibly significant, but stick with me because it is a little bit technical too, is that the retired Dr. Shu Lee, whose 1989 paper on air embolism in babies featured prominently in Lucy Letby's trial, has fronted at a major press conference hosted by the Tory MP David Davis to reveal the findings of a panel of international medical experts, which shows that there was no murder, no attempted murder. By the way, this is a 14-strong panel of medical experts throughout the world. You'll remember that Lucy Letby has already lost 2 bids to challenge her convictions at the Court of Appeal. But this story is not going away, especially given Dr. Shu Lee made it clear that these 14 medical experts had compiled an impartial, evidence-based report. Listen.
Death or injury of all the affected infants were due either to natural causes or to errors in medical care. There were serious problems related to medical care of patients at this hospital. There were problems related to teamwork and interdisciplinary collaboration at the Countess of Chester Neonatal Unit. In summary, ladies and gentlemen, we did not find any murders. In all cases, death or injury were due to natural causes or just bad medical care. Lucy was charged with 7 murders and 7 attempted murders. In our opinion, the medical evidence doesn't support murder in any of these babies, just natural causes and bad medical care.
And then there was this critical question. Watch.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lee. Can you tell me, on the PubMed, how many publications have you authored?
In terms of peer-reviewed publications in journals, I've authored over 400.
How many peer-reviewed publications, according to PubMed, has Dr. Dowie Evans, the Crown's star expert witness?
I don't know.
The answer is 0. So, in simple footballing terms, we've all heard of Liverpool, we've all heard of Andover Town, and they both score goals. Here is the problem. You and your panel have written together thousands of peer-reviewed papers on neonatology. The Crown star witness, Dr. Dowie Evans, has written 0. What does that tell you about the scientific knowledge of Cheshire Police, of the Crown Prosecution Service, the judge at the trial, and the judges at the appeal court, that they do not understand the difference between scientists who have published multiple papers on this subject and someone who has published nothing?
So, first of all, the panel that we have is, as I said, this is the top notch in neonatology. This is the creme de la creme, the dream team of neonatology. You're not going to find any better, right? And if they can't tell the truth, nobody else will.
If they can't tell the truth, then nobody else will. Absolutely fascinating. Apologies. I know that press conference was unfortunately quiet, but hopefully you got the key message there, which was that there is simply no evidence. No evidence that any of these babies were murdered. And of course, this stacks up with lots of new statistical evidence showing that Lucy Letby wasn't even on shift for 3 of the so-called murders. So let me bring in my superstar panel, Lilani Dowding and June Slater on this. June, look, I had to put my neck on the line a little bit with this one. When I was at GB News, there was just a decision. We're not going to talk about this. There were lots of presenters who had serious doubts about the verdict, but there was almost like a sort of decision made within the mainstream media. We're not going to point this stuff out. But once I went independent, June, and I had done 6 months of my own detailed research into this case, speaking to many experts, including statistical experts, I couldn't stay quiet any longer. I know it hasn't made me popular in some quarters. I'm not for a single second trying to bring any more pain for those families who have had to sit through the trial. But at the end of the day, June, I am of the firm belief that there is an innocent 35-year-old woman sitting in jail, currently going to be locked up for the rest of her life in good conscience. I couldn't stay silent about that. And I think that's exactly why Nadine Dorries and David Davis and Peter Hitchens have also gone against the mainstream narrative on this. And for that, I give them huge props.
Well, that's because you've got a conscience and you're actually bothered. Unfortunately, we hear it a lot now, shills. We've got people who will just take the money to be paid to keep the lifestyle going and do as they are told. You are the old school. You're an investigative journalist that looks past the cover story. And I think it's shocking what's happened. It sends a chill down my spine, that poor woman, because these are experts, as he said, and the one that they're all relying on hasn't had any papers published. I just hope there's something comes to this, because I do think it's been an awful train of events. And as usual with social media particularly, they make their mind up one way or another by reading headlines. They don't read the detail. You've been more than detailed. And, you know, David Davis, who's been an excellent MP, has stood by this. The Telegraph have taken up on it. The experts have given the time. We only have to hope that something decent comes out of this. And I admire you for what you did by standing up with this, because it's not a clickbait topic. This is it. It's not something that's going to draw you.
No, and it doesn't. That's the thing. It doesn't, June. In fact, it actually turns people off. It was an unpopular thing to discuss because people just felt that this was set, and it wasn't set. And I mean, Lani, I feel in the early days I was as guilty as anyone on this. I relied on the mainstream media narrative, and I didn't personally research the case, and I assumed she must be guilty. So by the way, I'm not at all saying that anyone who just believed the media narrative should feel bad, because it was what we were told. And how on earth was anyone really meant to decipher what was really going on when we had front pages every single day saying Letby is evil, she's the angel of death, she admitted to the crimes in her diary. But Leilani, that wasn't true, because that diary was indeed something that she was told to do by her counselors in terms of putting out all of your feelings on paper about what you were thinking at the time. And yes, one of them included the fact that she had done it, but all of the other comments were about the fact that she was being set up and was the victim of a witch hunt, and it wasn't me and it wasn't fair. And I will just say again, there's no evidence. There is literally no evidence that she caused any harm to any of those babies. Everything was circumstantial, based on statistical evidence, and that has started to fall apart.
Dan, I have to say that I think I was the same. I ignorantly believed what I'd seen in the mainstream media because, like you said, because of the diary, not realizing that was it her psychologist who told her to put her feelings down. Now, I remember watching you and Norman Fenton, Professor Norman Fenton, who I have a massive respect for, talking about this. And that was the first time kind of opened my mind up to a little bit. And then I had a conversation with a friend like, you know, why would she say that? I'm this or I'm that or I'm evil. And my friend was like, Leilani, how many times have you gone on Twitter and gone, okay, fine. You want to call me a far-right, racist, bigot, transphobe, blah, blah, blah. That's what I am. I am a far-right, transphobe, racist, bigot. Not because I'm not, but because I'm so sick of being told that. So that made me think, God, you know, if this is her exercise given to her by this, maybe, you know, she was writing down what people were saying to her, what people, you know, she's not that, but she's writing it down because she's so sick of being told that or being made to feel that way. So I didn't realize it was something that the psychologist had given her. And my whole basis for thinking she was guilty was based upon that, and then based upon the headlines saying that she admitted it, but excluding that that was an exercise given to her. Then when you find out about the water, when you do the statistics, when Norman, I think Norman said that no other statistics had been run for nurses that were on duty because they could have come back as a similar, you know, as a similar probability. And it was mainly done on the fact that she was on certain shifts, but those statistics hadn't been run for other nurses or other doctors on shifts with those babies. So now this new evidence is out, and this is somebody, like he said, that's done, you know, 400 peer-reviewed papers. So we've got to listen to, you know, these people and at least have an open mind that we've seen our judicial system isn't great. We've seen people being locked up for nothing, and then people being let go over really serious crimes. So, you know, I think it needs to be reviewed. And you know, I can't sit here and say, yeah, I fully believe she's guilty. I just can't, I can't do that. And I don't think anyone should without, you know, really looking into it.
Indeed. And the thing is, those notes, Lilani, and it was actually the Guardian newspaper, I've got to give credit where credit's due. It was the Guardian newspaper that revealed the truth about those notes, because they were relied on by the prosecution as amounting to a confession.
Yeah.
But actually, they were part of these therapeutic sessions. And what's really critical, actually, is to look at, and I'll show you here that the notes in some totality, and you'll also see that she also said, I haven't done anything wrong. Police investigation, slander, discrimination, victimization. I feel very alone and scared. Then further down the page, because this was part of the process, that is where she wrote, I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough to care for them and I'm a horrible, evil person. So it was part of a therapeutic process. But Lilani, you mentioned the special that I hosted on Lucy Letby. I really do recommend, if people are still in doubt, in some doubt, and I get it, you're probably thinking, but a jury saw this and a KC was representing Letby. How on earth could this happen? And I also understand that really in a civilized society, you want to be able to trust our judicial system. So if you do have those doubts, I really, really recommend you watch the special, because I went through with those two experts exactly why Lucy didn't commit the crimes. And by the way, there is a solution too as to what did kill the babies. Here's a preview. Letby was convicted of 7 murders and 7 attempted murders of babies in intensive care. No one saw Letby do a single thing. There is no CCTV. There is no DNA evidence. Former Conservative Cabinet Minister Sir David Davis believes there is a 90% chance Letby is not guilty.
The police were potentially already concerned about the value of this statistical evidence.
The statistical value of the chart is pretty much 0.
You could take any nurse and build a similar chart which looks exactly like that if you only look at the deaths which occurred when those people were on duty.
And this is why it's so easy to wrongly convict a nurse if the whole establishment comes down looking for you to be the easy person to blame.
When you look at the babies in the Letby trial, you've got babies who were born as early as 27 weeks gestation. The babies were nowhere near as stable and healthy and strong as was presented during the trial.
And I will link to that episode because, as I say, we go really in depth. It's a full episode. And as June says, it certainly didn't make me any friends and it certainly didn't get me any viewers. But honestly, I'm so passionate about this one. So June Slater, Lilani Downing, my superstar panel. Just before we go, Lilani, we've got to tell everyone, don't we, about something that we're doing in April, because it is the last opportunity for people to get involved. Do you want to explain, Lani? We're teaming up with an old friend.
Yes, we're both going to be on the Mark Steyn cruise. And I think, April the 6th for a week, going around the Mediterranean. I've just been told there are only there's very, very limited space left on the ship. Only maybe a couple of cabins left. So if anyone wants to get in, they can get out. And you've got other people. You've got the old dream team, I guess. You've got Loza going, his amazing fiance, California Frizz
Father Cowan Robinson.
Yes, you got Samantha, the two Sammys.
Yes, Sammy Woodhouse and Samantha Smith, who exposed the grooming gangs. Alison Pearson. I mean, honestly, this is going to be great. This is going to be great. So, yes, very much worth a shout out.
And Mark Steyn will be back on form, I believe.
And yes, Mark, you can find all of the information from Mark Steyn's website. And by the way, I've also pinned the Lucy Letby episode in our chat. So if you do want to go and watch that now, you can do so. But goodness me, felt so good to have both of you back. June Slater. Follow her on YouTube. Her videos are an absolute must. And the Conservative commentator, Lalani Dowding, who is all over X. I loved having you here today. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Dan.
And while lots of debate, actually, over this whole Tommy Robinson Reform UK thing, and I understand the debate, and it's not that I'm trying to cause any division, but I can see that even we're a bit divided on this. Simon Brandy wrote, "We need to stop clapping for Farage. He's weak. Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib are the leaders we need. Nigel is out for himself." Simon Lawrence wrote, "Farage had to put Tommy down because the MSM will constantly say Farage refuses to disavow Tommy or Tommy ally Farage. Every Reform article will mention Tommy like he's part of Reform." And I do understand those two arguments, but I think maybe Beazle EVP's point in the live chat was possibly the most important. They write, "Everyone is forgetting Tommy is being tortured. Just being isolated every day is wrong. The mainstream media say sweet FA about his human rights." And they really, really do. And that is saying something. Okay, Union Jackass, time. 3 nominations from you today. And let me go through the nominations as I reveal the winners, actually. In third place, with 8% of the vote, Leonie Mallinger. That is Keir Starmer's voice coach, nominated by Fat Faye for Starmer's Lies. In second place, the Greater Manchester Police, nominated by Diane Mother Clanger for doxing the man who burnt the Quran. They received 10% of the vote. But folks, there's no question today. With 82% of the vote nominated by Carolyn Alamis, Angela Rayner for Islamophobia, this group, this council, which is going to be headed by Dominic Greaves. And as Carolyn put, and I think she's completely right, potentially confirming Sharia law through the back door. So much damage can be done. And goodness me, it really can. Now, don't go anywhere, because coming up in the Uncancelled After Show, Jack Whitehall has revealed he was ghosted by Prince Harry after he met Meghan Markle, who has launched a dodgy PR comeback. Angela Levin is going to be with me for all of the discussion on Substack. On Substack, sorry, www.outspoken.live. And by the way, posted this morning on Substack exclusively for my Substack audience. You can see it there. A special look at the People's Vaccine Inquiry that launched today. This really is a must watch. So sign up, www.outspoken.live, and you will get access to all of that extra content from me and from Outspoken on Substack. I have to end today, though, with my greatest Briton, my dad, because it is his birthday today. Happy birthday. There he is with his absolutely beloved granddaughter, Ivy Dan, my niece. And we had such a good time when I was back in New Zealand a couple of weeks ago. And Dad is having a beautiful time. Oh, look, the people say I really look like him. Actually, I can never see it, but that's what a lot of you have told me in the past. And Dad is having a wonderful time with good friends down in Queenstown, New Zealand. But I know he will be watching when he wakes up. So happy birthday, Dad. Thank you for allowing me to do that. Now, at this stage, of course, we move off YouTube and Rumble, move to our own platform on Substack. But I am back here tomorrow, 5 p.m. UK time, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And before I go, let me reveal today's greatest Briton, because how on earth could I forget that? The nomination, Karen Norfolk Dumpling, and it's Rupert Lowe, actually, for standing up for us and Tommy Robinson. I got carried away, sorry, because my dad is my greatest Briton, but I didn't reveal yours. So congratulations to Rupert Lowe. Well, what a day. Back tomorrow, 5 p.m. UK time, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Hit subscribe if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble. Most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you, but I hope to see you on the after show with Angela Levin in just one moment.